Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association. As we celebrate 75 years of DVC's impact on education, careers, and community, we're honored to share the incredible journeys of alumni who've transformed their time on our vibrant campus into meaningful careers, community contributions, and personal success. Each Tuesday, we spotlight DVC alumni, from first-generation graduates to entrepreneurs, educators, and leaders who share the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their lives. And on Thursdays, it's Resource Thursday. We dive into the programs, departments, and services that make DVC the supportive, dynamic community it is, exploring how they serve students and how you can connect with them. Whether you're a current student, recent graduate, or longtime alum, join us as we honor DVC's legacy and discover how our past continues to inspire the future. Thank you for being part of this journey. Be sure to tune in, subscribe, and celebrate with us. DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And now, join our host, Alumni Manager, Charlie Daly.
And we are live. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me be here today. My name is Duane Leem, and I could start off with saying I'm a first-generation student. I come from the Philippines. I'm Filipino-Chinese. I grew up in the Philippines for about a decade and went to Guam, ultimately hopping around in different places because my dad was in the Navy, and ultimately coming here to the Bay Area. I'm a cybersecurity professional focusing on the programming field, where I develop solutions to help others develop solutions towards cybersecurity and protecting themselves and protecting servers. And I'm a graduate of different places. I come from Pittsburgh High School, graduated there, loved that school. Over time, I went to several other schools, and one of the pivotal schools that I went to that helped change my career, it was actually DVC. I remember the program for advanced Java programming, and that set the foundation of my career to where I'm at today. I'm very blessed to be an alumni of Diablo Valley College.
Cool. Well, talk a little bit. It sounds like you kind of had, you were kind of a nomad for a part of your life. So talk about kind of like how you ended up like starting off, because you were bouncing around from place to place, and what that was like, and then how you ended up here.
For sure. Wow, thank you for that question. Definitely bounced in different places. Yes, I started in the Philippines, and I stayed there for about almost a decade.
Well, what was that like?
I love the Philippines. I go there. I try to every year go there once a year at least to see family, because all of my family members are there. And every time I come to the Philippines, I feel so honored, because that's where my heritage is. Everyone, it's different because I'm the only one here in my family here in the U.S. And whenever I go to the Philippines, I try to help others out, because I have a lot of gratitude for the people who have supported me in life. And a lot of my family members in the Philippines have done so. The culture in the Philippines they're very caring, they're very loving. And in return for all of the blessings I've had in my life, I try to send gifts back every so often, because they've been awesome.
So you really have a really good support network back there in the Philippines.
They do. I don't know if the term cheerleaders is right, but I have a whole team of them over there in the Philippines, always interested to see what I'm doing. And that's what drives me every day. I wake up in the morning, there's a lot of people who's cheering me on. And on top of DVC providing such a great program, that has set me in a path where I love to continuously learn in my field. And one of the biggest ones, like I said, was that advanced Java programming DVC. And I couldn't say how blissful I am to have such a program. And especially in technology where it changes. I learn, I get a certification, and in about 6 months, something related to it changes. DVC always offers something new, and I'm always on the hunt to learn the newest tech. And I'm glad I'm part of the DVC alumni to get those emails like, hey, we got a new program. Check it out. And I definitely do check it out and some of my coworkers.
So do you end up coming back to DVC for like catch up and kind of like as a continuing education type thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've seen that they've always changed their program to the latest. And I remember my teachers, Valerie Colbert, I believe, and Tony Chern, they've helped me a lot in my career. And I was 15 years in my career. I'm a veteran in this space. And I remember at the time I wanted to vamp up my programming skills. And what I like about the program, the advanced Java programming, is that a lot of the certifications that I've attained more recently, it's an advanced version, but being able to get that Java programming helped set the foundation to learn more advanced topics such as cybersecurity.
Well, and I did programming literally decades ago. And so one of the things I learned is that you got to learn the basics. I mean, because without understanding how to put together a program or put together a language or what the structure is or how to build a library or anything of that, like you are just out of luck. And so there's nothing to build on from there. And so let's go back a little bit. So you ended up going from the Philippines, you bounced around a bit, you went to Guam, you ended up somehow out here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
How was Guam? How was that?
I think it's somewhat similar. If I had to align it with probably Hawaii.
Okay.
So in Guam, it was amazing. I lived on the base. I would walk out maybe a couple of blocks. I would be facing the ocean. It was beautiful. At the time, I was still very young, and every now and then, I always think about how it was very tropical. It was very peaceful. Guam was awesome.
Okay.
I got to go visit there at some point. Yeah. And I went to elementary school there too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I went to elementary school there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was fun. And I'm sure that was awesome because I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and a lot of people go, oh my God. And as a kid, it was awesome, because it was just kind of, there were no fences and stuff like that. And so I imagine that Guam, even though you grew up on the base, it was a lot like that, where it's pretty open. And because I understand it's like, you got to have a lot of clearances to get to Guam. You can't just show up there on Tuesday. So
no, you need clearances. And what I really like about it, it's a lot different than, the city life. You walk out, there's not a lot of tall buildings out there. You kind of just to get to experience nature. So I miss that. And I love going to the Philippines. And every now and then I go to Hawaii whenever I can. So I love those kind of scenic places.
So, and that's definitely not California. So
No.
it just, we have a lot of nice stuff. But so, okay. So you went from Guam, you ended up here, maybe some bouncing around in there. So so you ended up in Pittsburgh, because obviously if you went to Pittsburgh High, you somehow ended up there.
Yeah.
How did you end up there?
Well, before Pittsburgh High, I lived in Alameda.
Oh, okay.
When there was a base there.
Yeah.
There was a base there. Yeah. So I was there for a couple of years until my dad got stationed to, I believe, Long Beach. But he had to drive a lot back and forth. So what we did was he got an apartment for us in Bay Point. At the time, I think it was called West Pittsburgh.
That's right,
Pittsburgh, guys.
That's right.
Yes, and I was there for a couple of years, and then ultimately we moved to Pittsburgh when we had our first house.
Yeah, I love Alameda. I've worked out there, and my wife is from Alameda, so it's just like, it's such a cute town, So you end up out of Pittsburgh. You go to Pittsburgh High. You said you had a lot of fun there. Was there anything that stood out about going to Pittsburgh?
I remember in Pittsburgh High, I did a lot of extra stuff when it came to computers. I've had a real passion for computers early on. Getting into that, I think the pivotal moment was when I broke my dad's computer. I broke his computer, and I think it was during 9th grade, and he just told me, I'm not going to fix that. He has no money for it. And I decided to try to tinker around with it. And at the time, it was a Pentium. I'd like to say it was a 90 megahertz.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time that was super fast, and I figured out how to fix it. He was surprised. I was surprised. And then I kept building on with that for the next couple of decades. And I think that was the moment when I really loved doing computers. I wanted to fix everyone's computers. I wanted to fix everyone's networks, troubleshoot whatever I can. And those were the AOL days.
Oh, yes. That was, I remember that. My My first computer was a 386.
386,
And
yes.
and I got a 40 meg hard drive, and I thought I was the shizzle. I was
Yep.
never going to fill that thing up, So yeah, it was.
It was almost $1,000 for something like that.
Yes,
too.
yeah, and it was and I bought all the parts separate. It was,
Yep.
But yeah, that was back in the olden days when wheels were square. So you went, you fixed your dad, you learned this passion for working on computers, and then what was your transition? You went from Pittsburgh High, and somehow you ended up here. Tell us about that.
Oh, absolutely. So in Pittsburgh High, I did a lot of volunteer computer activities. And I remember the typing class I've taken that typing class a couple of times. And I started getting typing speeds of up to 120, 130.
Wow.
Just because I wanted to see how far I could get. And I remember my teacher submitted, I was the fastest typer in Pittsburgh at one point. So that was fun. And I think she submitted to the Bank of America locally at Railroad to have a certificate displayed there. So I thought that was amazing. And ever since then, so building on from fixing my dad's computer to being a really good typer and helping the school fix computers there while I was there, whenever one of the students were having a problem, I would volunteer I could help troubleshoot and see what I could figure out. And I kept doing that. And then afterwards, during that time, I loved playing video games. So I love hack in a good way. They had things like Game Genie. There's ways to modify the registry using a software. I love getting into just breaking down software into components, and trying to figure that out led me to different areas in my life. And that was at Pittsburgh High. After Pittsburgh High, I met a wonderful person actually in my senior year. And her name is Jackie. And my path towards computers started to go in different places. We had our first child in 2001. She was born in 2001. And what hit me there, because previously before that, I was taking jobs. I have something to tell you on this one. When I was doing my first jobs, I was working at several jobs. Like one of them is Macy's, making $6.25 an hour. And at the time I was 18 or 19, and I was like, man, I am making a lot. Every 2 weeks I can buy a video game. I don't know. I thought I was on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years into it, in my relationship with my wife, we had our child, and I thought I have to go beyond, Macy's, and but I really wanted to get more into my computer skills, and that's when I started at Heald School at the time in 2000, and it was a really good school at the time because they help assist the students, and they really had a good program at the time. And
yeah, I went to Heald back in the late 80s.
They taught really good stuff back in the days, like Novell,
Yep.
where no one even talks about that anymore. That was,
I know. We did Novell 386.
Oh,
And we did.
yes.
Yep.
Those were the good times, and those were, if you knew how to admin that kind of network, people are like, that, you're immediately hired, by many companies.
Yep.
So yeah, during I don't think Novell's around that anymore. At least I don't use that in my tech
I don't
stack.
think anybody does.
Yeah.
So
I think everyone's using Active Directory, and yeah. So yeah, that's also set me up for a different pathways in my life. But while I was in Heald, I started getting in Heald. I went for the computer technology degree. It's a generalized degree, and it's associate's degree. And what I really enjoyed at Heald was the programming aspect.
yeah,
The programming aspect. I remember starting with Visual Basic.net, and I loved it. No, not Visual Basic. Visual Basic. And I loved it so much, I took additional courses at DVC in programming to help strengthen my foundation around programming. And I continue to do that in conjunction with Heald and DVC at the time.
Mhm.
And this was back in 1999, 2000, 2001.
yeah. When I went there, we were doing all our programming. We learned Basic.
Basic, yes.
Yes, just
Q
Basic.
I was doing Q Basic.
Okay, yeah, that was after us, but we learned Basic, and then we had to build all of our programs after that for our components in assembler.
Wow.
And yeah, it was tough. And so a friend of mine and I, we got together and we built several things. And then he introduced me to C and C++. And it was, but then I decided I didn't have the temperament for programming. I'm a little too ADHD-ish, and so, okay. So you went to, you went there and then you got introduced to a broader range of programming here at DVC.
Yes.
And then talk a little bit about that, kind of like where that path led you.
I took several classes such as and I didn't know a lot about the Mac. So I took a course in Macintosh. I completed that. And along the way, I took also here C#.net course. Yes. I wanted to get into the Microsoft world. But, at the time, career-wise, I started my first actual tech job when I was during Heald. It was called North. Well, one of them is Quest Communications. I was a T1.
I remember that.
Quest Communications.
Yeah.
They were huge.
Yes, they were.
They were huge. And I was a T1 implementation specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I didn't have fiber. Yeah, T1. And while in Heald and DVC, the next opportunity I got was with Vario, NTT Vario. It's a web hosting company. So, and that was very early in the 2000s. That was during the .com days.
Yes.
It was amazing because at the time it was the biggest players were Alta Vista. I think one of the Alta Vista Search, and these new players called Google came around and
well, there was Alta Vista Search. There was Netscape. There
was Netscape.
Yeah,
yes.
and there was a couple of others that are now just evaporated. I mean, Google killed them.
Oh yeah, so. I just remember when I was working at Vario, I remember Yahoo was trying to buy.
Yes.
Yahoo was trying to buy Google for a few millions, definitely not over 10 million, and Yahoo didn't do it. They came afterwards for a couple more millions, but yeah, they've been overshadowed over time. It's just an amazing story.
Yeah. So you went from T1 lines and web hosting, and so what all did, here at DVC, what would you say was your most memorable experience here at DVC?
That actually came later in 2015-16, because before that, I've hopped in different places, and continuing to build. I have this whole philosophy where, and I think it's just I feel like it's related to the technology field and how fast it grows. Very fast.
That's slow. Very fast is not fast enough, but yeah.
I felt like it was at a decent pace, but in the more recent few years, it just keeps skyrocketing every 6 months, So, right after Vario, I started working at other big places like Bank of America.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at AT&T. A lot of it was support-based. When I got into Vodafone, I don't know if you've heard of Vodafone.
Yeah.
Big telecommunications company overseas.
Yeah. Well, I think they're mostly Europe, or at least they were.
Europe.
Yeah.
And I think they have stakes in, not Verifone.
I think China also, or Taiwan, I think, is also, but.
Verizon. Yeah, they had a stake in Verizon. They may have separated by now, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I remember Verizon, Vodafone were aligned, a company. So during that time, I was going to University of Phoenix
mm-hmm.
for a degree in information technology, and I did that for about 2 years to get my bachelor's. And I learned it's also an overall IT program. Every time I had a programming class, I would always go over the curriculum. They would assign create a hello page that has a form, but I would create a whole, you can log in, you go to the form, you fill it out, you hit submit, it posts to a database, that kind of thing. I go above and beyond just because, I love doing it. It was a hobby of mine, something that I brought back from my teenage years. And at some point, I felt I needed more, because when I went to, and my daughter's now almost 9, or she's 9 years old at the time, I think. And I think we went to, I remember this one key pivotal moment. I went to Winco, and we're at the checkout, and I was trying to purchase on the checkout, my cart, and my card was declining, right? And someone on the side was saying hey, I don't mind paying for your groceries. I'm so blessed. I'm thankful for whoever that gentleman was. But I thought to myself, I needed to get to another level, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get a master's degree. And I think if I get a master's degree, I think that will elevate my skills to a whole new set of skill set. But I wanted to be in IT management. And in order to get there, I had to complete prereqs. Now I had the option of, and this is going towards Golden Gate University. So those prereqs that I was going to take, I decided to take them at Diablo Valley College because I love the campus. It's an amazing campus and amazing teachers. I ultimately did that, and I spent about a year doing my prereqs here at DVC and was able to transfer out to Golden Gate University, completing the entire prereqs program. And at Golden Gate University, I graduated with the IT management master's degree in 2014. So what I was doing was I was taking some of the initial courses in Golden Gate University and taking some of the required courses that Golden Gate University needed, but was provided by Diablo Valley College. Diablo Valley College is just providing everything for me at this point, you know? They are really everything was pivotal because of DVC. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the story I hear all the time. It's like, this is the place where you get, people get their foundation, they find themselves, they figure out what they want to do, they come back and they sharpen their skills up, which you've been back, it sounds like, 2-3 times now?
4 times.
Okay.
4 times, yes.
Okay. So, yeah, so you've been back and forth several times, and some of it is, and it's always to elevate your skill set.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So you elevated your skill set. There was a question. So you elevated, and so you went on from there.
Yeah.
And tell us about what you've been doing recently and kind of what that looks like. Because I know there's some other stuff, but I want you to talk about it where it's like
Sure.
you're off in the world and you're doing wonderful things. So talk about that.
Oh, the cybersecurity programming?
Yes. Because that's, by the way, that and AI are the 2 hot topics right now. So.
Okay. So how I got into cybersecurity and artificial intelligence was another path that I've taken, which stemmed from such as the Diablo Valley College providing that advanced Java programming back in 2015-16. The way how I got in was before I started my new job at Warrior Trading back in 2018. Before that, I was working at Staged Homes in 2006, I started as a network administrator. Then at 2000, I can't remember, 2009 or 10, they made me the lead software engineer. And in 2014, after I got my master's degree, my CEO, she had me be the chief technology officer. And I had that job all the way to 2018. But, one of the things that I've realized as being someone in executive management, such as Staged Homes in the technology department, one of my skills that I really needed to work on was my public speaking and leadership skills. And I've taken so many courses in a technical course, and I continue to do so because that's so important. But that was one skill that I really needed to get to another level. And a lot of it, I think I lacked a lot of it before because I'm one of those guys where I'd like to sit in a cube, give me the programming assignment, let me know what your business requirements is, and I'll create a proof of concept out of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When it comes to presenting in front of in front of leadership, that was a whole different, I would stutter. I didn't know what to do. My cousin, he is a medical doctor, and he wanted to also get better in that area. And he said, hey, why don't we check out this thing called Toastmasters? And I was just following along with him. So in May 2018, all the way to now, I've been doing Toastmasters. I recently finished something called the Distinguished Toastmaster, which you probably saw on LinkedIn.
Yes, I did. I did.
I probably didn't make that much of a big deal, but that's probably one of the hardest. It was probably harder to get than my master's degree, I would tell you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing Toastmasters in everything that I've done with DVC and all of the colleges I went to. I even went to MIT's. I'm an alumni of MIT's DevOps program.
Oh, wow.
All of that collectively, I think this was a missing piece. It's the public speaking, interfacing with different people. And 6 years of Toastmasters helped me get there. I don't think I'm an expert, to be honest with you. I'm still working on it. But when I reflect back in 2018 to today, and all of the stuff I've done with DVC and all of the education that I've attained over the years, it's been an extreme accelerator. And I think that was a missing part of my education was the communication. And now I'm speaking in AWS or in conferences, WordPress conferences in front of companies.
That was the part I wanted to get to, because it's like I remember having a conversation with you. This is a little while ago, and it's like I wanted, excuse me, I was like going, hey, let's blah, 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 whatever it was. I was like, well, I can't now because I'm working on my keynote speech for a conference. So you went from, going to DVC and being freaked out about speaking in public to where now you've done a couple of keynote speeches. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that's very exciting. I mean, I'm a guy, I don't get nervous about standing up in front of people, but I also flap my arms a lot and don't stay on track for the thing. So you obviously have become very polished on it. So tell us about that.
Oh man, polish is such I don't know. I still feel like I'm not there, but yes, I've been giving a lot of opportunity to speak at conferences. And a couple of them has been in some, have you ever used WordPress?
Oh, yes.
WordPress?
Yep.
So I've been a speaker there for just teaching other engineers on some of the best practices, some tricks, tips and tricks on how to secure WordPress. And I've been to a lot of meetups where they had me speak. If you ask me, probably before 2018 or on 2018, I would have said no to a lot of those things.
Okay.
Because, yeah. And I think the big part is, as students, stepping out of the comfort zone, like you're faced with this decision. I could say no to this and continue what I'm doing, which is totally fine for sure. Or you can get to, I always like to use the another level up. It's such a defining word. So I decide whenever I'm given the opportunity and asked to be a speaker, I aim to not say no, just to do it. That's my goal. No matter how difficult how large of an audience is. And I've been to several conferences and I've said yes to, I like to say all of them, I believe.
Okay.
I like the challenge. And I will tell you that doing the actual speech is probably not the hardest now that I've done a couple. The speech is super easy just because I've done so many. It's actually the preparation behind it and even the post, doing it. But I've given a lot of speeches in WordPress software engineering, how to secure it. I've done a lot of cybersecurity speeches on helping people protect themselves online through just process, small things that they can change their habit. Like, are you doing a two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication? Are you randomizing your passwords? Is it more than 8 characters? Hopefully it's way more than that. I tend to do 20, 24, but I memorize none of those because I use a password manager. I give a lot of speeches on that. I've given a lot of speeches on protecting, as a software engineer, protecting your APIs, protecting your servers, and how you can do that from a server level, not to get too technical, specifically like in Nginx and Apache. I've taught a lot of developers on how to do that. And yeah, between the differences between cybersecurity programming, they're all towards programming in cybersecurity. And how I got into artificial intelligence, which is another topic. I like doing all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to, and as
well, first of all,
sure.
You're obviously an expert in AI and security, and I think those are two areas. So the consensus 6 months ago was AI is going to murder us all. Now the jury's a little bit out. I'm a little less, pessimistic about it, and I think it's like any new tool, it's good. But so first of all, start with, is AI going to murder us all?
Short answer, no.
Good. Okay. So sorry about that. That's one of those things
I
where
hear it all the time.
I know. And that's where it's like, I want to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I don't believe it is. I don't think that we're smart enough to let it get big enough but that's a whole nother thing. So talk a little bit. You got into AI. I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but get us into that.
Well, let me elaborate why I think.
Okay.
No,
yeah, please.
No on
please.
AI going to take over the world, at least not right now. Reason being is quantum computing is not out yet.
Okay.
So and there's no reasoning behind what AI does. At the end of the day, statistics. If we look at it from the base on what AI does, it's just a bunch of models trained around points on a graph, and it only can think around that. So there's really no reasoning behind it. It's only the data that you give it. So if you give it data tailored to whatever you're trying to solve, that's what it's all going to try to go within those regression lines.
So that's why it's called a large language model, is there's a lot of language in there.
There's a lot of models in that
Yes.
large language model. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I used to work for a company, ShotSpotter, and we had a lot of data on gunfire, but that's all we had. People would refer to us as big data. And I'm like, and we had a couple of stat guys who were like totally geeked out on them. And they're like, we're not big data. We have a lot of data, but we're not big data. And I think that's where people get confused is they see AI and they go Terminator. And so therefore we're all going to die. And it's just,
It's not there yet. So, everyone, don't be afraid of AI.
Yeah.
Use it to help you.
Yes. Well, like I said, it's a tool. So sorry for that divert, but actually I hadn't even thought of that. That's a really good point on why it's not. It's
a graph.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a graph. I was going to say it's just a computing machine.
Yep.
Is all it is. So it doesn't have an opinion.
It doesn't have an opinion, at least not yet, or unless they figure out quantum and how we can utilize that.
Yeah.
That's years ahead.
Yeah, that's probably a discussion for another day, because that's one
absolutely.
I don't even understand. So talk about how you ended up getting into AI, because I think that's got to be interesting.
Sure. Doing AI in my career, getting into AI there's several key points that led me to start doing machine learning. Artificial intelligence, ML, is a branch of AI. From the DVC, advanced Java programming, helped set the foundation for that. Absolutely. How I got into that, I started taking more courses, such as the MIT DevOps program. And I took that for a year, and I'm alumni of that program. And what DevOps is just taking code safely into production in an automated way, along with QA embedded in there and a lot of code checking, essentially helping developers get their code into production. And that's the bulk of my work at Warrior Trading. In Warrior Trading, I am so blessed to be in that organization. They help support my growth where I am today. My main role at my organization at Warrior Trading is a DevOps professional, but they promote continuous growth. They put me in education. It took me about a year and a half to get a new certification called the Certified Information Systems Security Professional, CISSP. And in addition to that, it was the MIT that I was referring to, and they put me to 2 boot camps, software engineering boot camps, specifically in ML. The first one I signed up for, they signed me up for Udacity on the artificial intelligence for trading, and that took me about a year and a half to do. And the second program was called Machine Learning DevOps, or MLOps, Machine Learning Operations. I took those combined for 2.5 years, and I learned how to create models, doing deep learning, supervised and unsupervised learning program, how to do that. And I grew a passion into that, and I wanted to align that somehow with security and give that back to where I work, also at Warrior Trading. And all of those educations that I've done, I've taken those, used it in my work, and also do speeches centered around that to help protect things like WordPress, protect things like API servers, REST API endpoints, using machine learning, using cybersecurity best practices. A lot of that's more recent learning. As someone that I believe in perpetual learning, I've gotten those more recent. And being in the technology field, I felt like that's something that, every 2 to 4 years I reinvent myself, and I've reinvented myself from just a general programmer, and I've had 2 decades of that already, and I've changed that towards being highly specialized in cybersecurity and AI. Thanks to Warrior Trading, a lot of people who supported me, and also all of the hundreds of Toastmasters who helped me along the way to give that voice out to many people, so I can help them protect themselves also being online.
Yeah, that's great. And I was just thinking about, I know that when I was at ShotSpotter, they had just started using machine learning, And I didn't know what it was and didn't. And then I just, as we're talking, I realized, oh my goodness, AI really grew out of machine learning.
Yeah.
And, but by calling it machine learning, it was less threatening than AI,
That's true.
So
We're all using machine learning at the end of the day.
yeah, it's like anytime you have predictive anything, it's like, guess what,
Yeah.
Cool. So you've come quite a ways. What do you think the next couple of years for you looks like?
That's what I'm excited about. It's unknown. I usually create a 4-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I created that 4-year plan when I first started warrior trading. My 4-year plan, of course, is what we've already talked about, right? Is getting the CISSP, completing MIT, completing 2 boot camps in machine learning. I wanted to transform myself into that. I mean, the next few years, I wanted to really change more, get more. I'll continue to get certifications because it always changes along the way. But I'm not going to be just stuck on just learning all the time. I want to go out and speak at conferences. I want to tell a lot of people on AI safety.
Yep.
Don't be afraid. On a day-to-day basis, when it comes to machine learning for me, it helps me greatly in what I do.
Yeah.
Like whenever I send an email, I copy and paste that thing into ChatGPT. It's like, hey, how would the other person receive this? I want to know the initial feedback. Feedback is huge to me because of the whole Toastmaster philosophy, right? Mission. So I always get feedback. I get feedback from my coworkers, from people at whatever professional networking I go to. I always ask for feedback, and I can get some initial ones from machine learning.
Yeah, it's funny. I love that tip, and I hadn't even thought of that. I'm going to have to start using it. It's probably take a little while for me to train my particular corner of the world to do that, but I use ChatGPT all the time because I'm a lousy writer, horrible writer.
Me too.
And I've learned a few prompts to get it to write really well for me, and then I just got to clean it up a little bit, like get names spelled correctly, because of course it doesn't know how to spell, names randomly. But I love the fact that you're an expert in cybersecurity and in AI, and guess who would you use? ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Somebody recently we were talking, it's like they said, be sure to never lie to your ChatGPT, because the reason is because it doesn't know the difference and it doesn't care. But then it learns that that's part of the protocol that you're using. So it's just, But yeah, I'm going to have to remember that with the how would they receive it. That's a really good tip. I like that.
Maybe before coming into, maybe others, if they have an interview, they can also use ChatGPT to ask them interview questions. Like, hey, I'm going into a cybersecurity interview. It's for this company. Give me 10 interview questions that they may ask. And what's important is you practice that.
Mm-hmm.
And you practice that, offline. And if there's certain areas where you can help refine, go back into ChatGPT. I'm going to say this, but ChatGPT would know your background because you've been using it so much, right? And you want to be careful lying to it because it's going to think, oh, you are the president of the United States.
Exactly. And that was the point they were making, is that it won't know and it doesn't care. It's a machine. It's kind of like a hand calculator. It doesn't care if you lied.
For sure.
It just is the numbers you put in or the numbers you put in. So, just this is totally random. So, what other things do you use ChatGPT for? Because I like I said, so far I've gotten 2 really good tips from you. So I'm going to keep them in the quiver.
ChatGPT, I use it for many things. It helps me get the ground up and running with functions for Python or any programming language. It, from 0 to 100 to getting something done, I would say it would get me to maybe 50%, giving me a boilerplate. So you can use it for programming. Another is what I really like using ChatGPT for, another big one is trying to find great places to eat. So when I hope my wife's not
expand.
So I hope my wife's not listening. But I always, whenever my family comes back to me and I say, hey, where are we eating tonight? That's a whole decision-making process that could take some time. And I thought, I'm going to try this out on ChatGPT. So I would create a new prompt. What are the best places to eat in Sacramento? Give me the top 10.
Right.
And I would present that to the family. Like, I did some research and these are the top 10. Pick one of those.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to keep that one. That's a good one. I like that one.
Yep.
So, and I was thinking I've actually used, because I was a consultant before I did this, and I needed agreements. And I'm not an attorney, nor have I played one on TV. But so what I would do is I actually started using ChatGPT for that. And that's really where I learned about prompt engineering. It was just, here's, I need an agreement between this company and me. Here are the parameters. And it would lay it out, and it almost invariably comes out close enough to where it just takes a couple of tweaks, and that was way easier than try to create something on my own.
Yeah.
So
I've created several agreements. So I do some freelancing, such as at Redbox and several other organizations. And whenever I need a legal document created, or even an incident management report, or some report or anything, you could go to ChatGPT. I had an incident where we had a cybersecurity risk from a distributed denial of service, and we need to log this incident. Create me an incident management report, and it would give me a really, really defined incident management report that would be A-okay from by other cybersecurity analysts. They'd be impressed. Like, you made this? I've had assistants.
Well, we may have to cut this part out so nobody knows about that, but
it's a great starter for, if you need to get agreements or anything, but ChatGPT will help you get the ball rolling in that area. Yeah. Of course, you have to still modify it. You got to read it and make sure it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Or most of it, I'm not sure, maybe 50%, it's not perfect. So you definitely have to read whatever it outputs.
Yeah, and you do got to check it for accuracy, but it's like, I definitely think it's a great tool. And I think where it's going to, the more I use it, the more I realize what it does it's going to make us not as good at writing, but it will do is it'll free up a lot more time for what we're doing like right now, talking to each other, interacting with other humans. And I think that's probably where it's really, really going to, if we can learn to take advantage of it in a way that's not, nefarious or something like that. So.
Absolutely. And doing that, it'll free you up to do the fun stuff. For sure.
Yeah. So what, any other tips for ChatGPT? I like the hack for the restaurants. Yeah, we'll have to see if that stays in the podcast, but it probably will. But anyways.
It's amazing for finding out great foods.
Yeah. So any other thoughts as we wind down here?
I've spoken to a lot of students in the information technology field, and I've seen that name change over time so much. It's computer science or computer technology, computer science, IT. And when it comes to our field, software engineer, I remember we were originally called webmasters. Then we were called web developers. Now we're called software engineers, and now we have full stack software. The name changes so much in the past 25 years. It's having a lot of students have anxiety about, will I ever get a job in this? I would like to tell everyone that yes, you just have to believe in yourself. Every morning when you wake up, you make a decision like, do I want to stay in bed, or do I want to go out, get an education, go to work? I think for me, what helped me out is, of course, get out of bed and actually do that stuff. What helped me a lot was continuously going to school and learning. That's why I have a blog called A Perpetual Student.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I continue to get certifications. I continue to go to DVC, and I continue to have a work all in alignment, parallel. And I think that's what's the biggest success for me. It's because technology changes so fast. I think we're a student until we're, forever, especially in the technology field.
Yeah, well, and I figure I'm going to be a student until the day I die. I mean, literally, because it's like every day I learn something new. I mean, just sitting here in the last, 43 minutes, I've learned about amazing prompts for, the restaurant prompt, which as much as we're laughing and joking about it, never even occurred to me. And I'm like going, man, that is brilliant, but especially like getting responses back. There's, a lot of the other stuff, which is, but the main thing is you've always been hungry for learning. That's more the thing. I think the takeaway is just that you always is like looking at what's the next thing I can learn about, never sitting on your laurels. Okay. Anything to wrap it up beyond that?
Anyone going into the computer science field, you can do it. If I can, and I always have that thinking in my head that, do I know enough? Believe in yourself. The biggest critic is yourself. And if you can overcome that, believe in yourself, and you can easily get a job. You can easily get to the next level. And I'm still working on that, everyone.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni. where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association, celebrating 75 years of DVC's incredible impact on education, careers, and community. We hope today's episode gave you valuable insights into the journeys of our alumni and the powerful resources available at DVC. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday for inspiring alumni stories, and on Resource Thursdays, where we spotlight DVC's departments and services, showing you how they're shaping student success. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and exploring the connections that make DVC's legacy so special. And remember, DVC alumni, where every story inspires the next.